right, everybody, it is officially 9:15 on the first day of summer. So welcome to all our agents and managers and staffers from across CB Central. That's our St. Louis company, our Chicagoland company, our Minnesota company, and our Texas companies. So welcome to all of you. This is our sixth episode of View from the Top. And my name's Carol McCabe. I'm the Regional Vice President at Coldwell Banker Realty Gundaker in St. Louis. And I have the privilege of working with these great agents and bringing you this panel on the topic of earning what you're worth. And in this market, in the environment that we've been in, although it's certainly changing quite a bit right now, being able to maintain commission when with low inventory and lots of buyers and sellers thinking things just happen automatically is really takes professionalism and talent. And that is what our four panelists are going to share with you today. So we're going to jump right in. I'm going to introduce our panelists and then start with the questions. Please put questions in chat and we will get to your questions, as many as we can. And I believe that the other button is disabled. So chat's the only one that you can get into. The Q&A is disabled. So just go ahead and put questions in chat. So with that, I'm going to start by introducing our panelists from our Dallas Fort Worth company and specializing in, I'm going to say this, Waxahachie. How did I do, Melissa?
Very good.
Waxahachie, Texas is Melissa McLean. And so welcome, Melissa.
Thank you.
And from Kankakee, Illinois is Rory Hertzberg. Welcome, Rory. He's an amazing realtor, as you can see on his screen. From St. Paul, Minnesota, from our Minnesota company, Henry Edelstein. And from right here in St. Louis with me from our Chesterfield West office, Sarah Bravo. So welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy you all are. Not only did our panelists, are they taking this hour to spend with you and share things with you, but they also carved out some time last week to talk to me and got on earlier today to talk to each other. So with that, we are going to start with the questions. So I'm going to ask questions and ask each of you to weigh in. And also, I would love it if you each asked each other questions as we went along. So our first question is, and we're not going to talk, just to kind of lay the ground rules, we're not going to talk specifically about commission amounts. They're different. What is considered full fee is different in each one of our markets, each one of our panelists' markets. But what we are going to do is talk about how they are able to get full fee in this market. So, one of the first question, and it's a pretty broad one, but it is, how do you manage to maintain your commission level in this market? So, Sarah, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I think that one of the foundations that I learned when I first started in the business in real estate was really helps in every type of environment. And one of the things that I do religiously is I always contact a seller prior to going in for a listing appointment. And there's a host of questions that I ask in order to just kind of prepare myself for the meeting. So when I get to the actual meeting, I already have the information that a seller's really looking for, as far as I know what they want to list their house for. I know what they owe on their mortgage. I know what it is that they're looking to net when everything is said and done. So with all of that information, by the time we get to the topic of commissions, I have shown along the way that we're on the same page, that I've done my homework and my research, etc. And I find that when I can deliver news in a very simplistic fashion and show them actual numbers and give them a net sheet, when we're talking about commission and I say, well, this is what you're going to net in your pocket when everything is said and done. Does that number make you happy? And someone looks at that and they go, great. So now when I talk about commission, it's not even a major point of discussion, because even if I say this is what the commission is, they go, oh, great. If they go back to, well, that's what it is. So-and-so would do it for less, and whatever objection they might give at that point, I can always refer back to, oh, right. But we talked about that net sheet, and here you go. Remember, this is the number that you're going to walk away with, even with this particular number being the commission. So I think a lot of it just has to do with being prepared in advance and going in, hitting the key targets of what is important to them as the seller, so that you've got confidence when you're talking about, finances, the numbers, and the bottom line. And at the end of the day, everybody cares more about what's going to be in their pocket than what's in mine. So just kind of being prepared, having that information. A net sheet is huge for me. And so I think that solidifies when somebody gets to that question, so that it's just not, it's a non-topic almost.
That's awesome. And I do just want to just go back to the net sheet for just a minute, because when we talked, you said that really is your kind of your key, that if you can show them all that on your net sheet, then like you said, the commission isn't an issue, because that's what we're trying to get to. So fantastic. Melissa, how about you?
My thing is, if you show value, it's really a non-topic. So I use Listing Concierge a lot. And I'll also, within our listing agreement, tell them that we have, I think it's 4 different boxes on there. And yeah, I can adjust my commission. It starts at this and we can go up to this. So usually they kind of laugh and it's like, haha, and no, I don't reduce my commission for my dad. I'm not going to reduce it for you. I saw in the chat that somebody said, how do you handle somebody saying, well, this guy will do it for 4%. Carol, if you remember, I just had a topic with a seller last week when we talked about them saying that. And I said, you're correct. There are people out there that will do it for less. However, that's just not me. And if you do it for one person, then you have to do it for the rest, because everybody talks, Sister Susie talks to her cousin or whatever. And then the neighbor says this, or the business partner says this, and then you're, kind of stuck. So with my team, one of my newest team members, I just said, don't start it. Like, don't do it. Otherwise you'll have to do it for everybody. And Carol and I also talked about, that's kind of part of discrimination too. Like, if you do it for one, you got to do it for another. So just keep it all on the same playing field.
Yeah, that was a really interesting comment, Melissa, that you made when we were talking, and it was about a fair housing issue. And fair housing is all about your standard business practice, and how you handle one person, you handle everybody. That's a great point, which I honestly had never thought of in regards to commissions. So I thought that was a really, really valid point. Rory, how about you?
Kind of the same points there, where, we try to show value, and I remind them that they're the ones that called me to come out. So obviously Listing Concierge is huge. I think it's one of the best assets that our company has given us. Like, I absolutely love what they do. And using Listing Concierge, on average, I think right now is getting me 1 or 2 new listings when they send out all those whatever they send out, that says, hey,
Just
this is
listed.
just listed, and then this is sold. Sarah was absolutely right with the net sheet. Like, people only care about how much they're going to walk away with. So that's it. Like, we hit that right up front. Like, on average, I do the math in my head. I've been doing it. I've been here 7 years, I think. So I usually just take about 10% off the top and say, you're listing your house for 400, you're going to walk away with 360. But people really only care about how much they're going to walk away with. And then I know somebody, like you said, the 4%, there are discount brokerages out there. Everybody has an uncle that'll do work for a case of beer, but at the end of the day, you're going to end up calling me after it doesn't sell anyways, or you're going to call with complaints, or they take pictures with their cell phones, whatever. But I mean, at the end, they called us, and you can go with the discount brokerage, or you can go with Coldwell Banker, who's the #1 best known real estate brokerage in the world, and we've got the team, and we can back up whatever we do.
Fantastic.
Hey, Carol.
Yes.
Can I chime in?
Sure.
So one of the things that I will point out, because you just brought up a good topic or a good point, is you went over with the fact that you would take 10% off and then show them what the final quote sales price is going to be. When I'm talking about putting a net sheet together, I take it down to the actual amount that they're going to net and walk away with. And I think that's huge. And that's a big difference, because even when I ask somebody, when I make the call, it's, and what were you hoping to net off the sale of the house? And they usually throw back at me the big number, what they're looking to sell the house for. And I'm like, no, let's get down to it, because you still got a mortgage to pay off. You're going to have to pay closing costs. You're going to have to pay your title fees. You're going to have to pay your prorated taxes, all of those things. So when everything is taken care of, what are you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, looking to put in your pocket, your take home to mama money? And then they go, oh, well, I've never even thought about it like that. Gosh, well, what's your next goal? Are you looking to buy a new house? Which is also another good lead to get them what they're sell and buy, by the way. But what are you looking to net? And are you going to take that money and then put it into the next house? A lot of times people go, yeah, I'd love to have 20% in order to put down, for my down payment on my next house. Awesome. What's the price point you're looking at? So now we've gotten really down to the actual heart of what they're looking for. So when I point that net sheet out face to face with them, and I'm able to say, now you mentioned you were hoping to put 20% down on the next home. You're going to be looking at a $500,000 price point. Here's your net sheet. You're going to walk away with $110,000. Does that number make you happy? Of course, they're going to say, of course, I was looking at 100. This gets me my goal. In fact, most of the time people go, wow, I really didn't think I was going to make that much. I just said 20% because that's what everybody says, but I was thinking of putting 10% down. Get to really the heart of what it is that's going to be in their pocket. So I think if people took it a step farther and asked that next probing question of what do you owe on your mortgage? What's the balance due, to get them that in their pocket number, that could take you, if you're always this close and you kind of go, where did I miss? That might be the key component that gets you over the top, because now you're given a little bit more information that most other agents aren't doing.
Yeah, very good. Henry, how about you?
They for sure aren't doing it, because I've been in situations, not in today's market, but especially during COVID, when people decided that they were going to move, that they, had lived in a house for a year and, they didn't like it or whatever, they needed to get out of the city and get into the suburb or whatever the case was. And I'd been in situations where before the market changed, that people had it listed with another person and they were going to be upside down. And I'm like, your realtor didn't go over this with you. They didn't go over your net. So there's people out there for sure not going over the net, not giving the clients the big picture, and people in the marketplace naive enough not to even know to ask that, because they don't know what they don't know.
That's right. Well, in 2009, you kind of had to ask that question because people were so upside down. So delivering that message when I started was no fun. It was like, and you only have to bring 20,000 to the table, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, to get rid of the house. Now it's the other end of the spectrum, which is really, really awesome. But a lot of people don't do it. And I think some of that is agents themselves don't know to do it. So again, you don't know what you don't know.
Right. Henry, how about you?
Well, I think, it's setting the expectations from the beginning. So Sarah brought up a good point of just, that initial call. And we have a questionnaire that we ask all of our clients when they call in. And then when it comes down to it, it's creating that triangle of trust with them and really making sure that you are presenting yourself to the best. So if I know Mr. Seller and they were referred to me by, one of their friends, we connect that triangle for trust. And if they do ask me about commission, I always say, well, I charge, the other person that fee, and I can't, out of respect for them, lower my fee for that. I just beat a Remax team that was charging 1% lower than I was. And they were really impressed with how much information we brought to the table. And it wasn't to them about the commission. It was about who was the most knowledgeable, who was the most presentable, and how you were going to go about marketing the sale of your home. And I think that each time you go to somebody's house, you need to make it consistent so everybody's getting the exact same experience, Carol. and I want them to make sure that they're receiving the value from us and really explaining everything. And then when we go over the net sheet with all of our clients, we always, instead of calling it a commission, because I learned from somebody a long time ago to call that a success fee, because they're not paying me that until I'm successful in selling their home. And so presenting it in a different light, I also think helps change the conversation. They laugh a little bit, and it really then, you know, you can go to the next fee when I'm presenting what they're going to end up netting at the end of the day.
Yeah, and Henry, one thing that we talked about, and actually all of you said the same thing, and goes back to also what Melissa was saying. You do the same thing for every seller every time you walk into a house. Henry, you talked about that specifically. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you know, I think it's from the beginning of the initial call. You know, one of my staff people will take that call, and then I'll follow up with the phone call afterwards. And then from there, it's, you know, meeting them at their house. We give everybody who we go out to a gift. I think that's really important. You want to be really getting them excited about meeting with you. It's setting those expectations up front, and then they all get treated the exact same. It doesn't matter if you're, like Melissa said, you know, my dad, or if it's somebody who's a best friend of mine. I want them all to have the exact same experience. That means they all get the same process, same photographer, same stager. Everybody's going to know everybody throughout that process. And, you know, you want to dress the part, Carol. You got to be professional. You know, a lot of our competition goes in today wearing jeans, t-shirt. I won't do that. I will always wear a suit. I dropped the tie during COVID, but I think that really is a differentiator in making yourself stand out. And the consumer a lot of the time doesn't know what they don't know, right? And so by you going in there, acting the professional, you can't be scared that you're going to lose it. I think if you're losing listings, that's great because you're going on a lot of appointments. If you're getting every single listing, that's probably means you're not going on enough appointments. So, you know, you got to be faced with a challenge, and you got to be faced with making sure that you're up against some competition because it makes it fun for you. But at the same time, holding your value, holding what you're worth. And if they say, you know, will you go, is this your standard? I don't know. I sometimes joke with them and I'll say, well, I could charge more, right? Not necessarily less. And so I think that also lowers the bar for them as well. So that's kind of some of my opinions. But yeah, consistency is what's going to make you stand out, because that's what everybody's going to talk about amongst the friend group.
Yeah, and Rory, you said the same thing, same treatment for everybody, no matter who, right?
Yeah, maybe I said it. I don't remember. Yeah, I think I always started at full list, or what do we call it? Full
fee.
Huh?
We'll call that.
Yeah, whatever it is. Like when I started with Coldwell, that's just what was on the contract. So it was in bold black print on our listing sheet. So that's just, I didn't know any different until being in the business a while. Like, and really, you know, we know there's a lot of brokers out there. You know, they called you, you're there at their house, you make the connection, you find things that you guys have in common, you know, whether they like whatever cars, or, you know, you guys find that common connection. They're hiring you because they like you. I don't think they care really about 1 or 2%. You know, they will go with you just because either somebody recommended you, or you've made that connection with them, or, you know, it's just, you know, they called you. So I don't know. I've never had a problem with it really. I get the, you know, so-and-so would do it for a certain percentage. And at the end of the day, we're arguing over 1 or 2%. But at the end, like Henry said, you know, what's the success mean to you? You know, that's great. You can put your house on the market for 3 months at a lower commission with, you know, terrible photos and no social media marketing and no postcards sent out. And, you know, you don't have an aggressive realtor because they're at the nail salon, you know, or they're working a part-time job. I see that here a lot in our area. There's a lot of part-time realtors who work it, like, I kid you not, like you Jewel or something, you know, and they're like, oh, I'm here for the benefits. That's what BS, man. What benefit? What's the best benefit about being a real estate agent is the freedom, and you do make a ton of money. Like, you do very well. So why are you working at Jewel? You know, like, and then you're going out and you're telling people that you're going to list for, you know, 2 or 3% less than what I'm going to do. And they've sold 2 or 3 houses this year. Like, and you're listening to this person who sold 2 or 3 houses, or are you going to listen to me who closed, you know, 200 plus deals a year? You know, like, so at the end of the day, like, I don't really run into that too often, but also in, you know, in our areas, I'm sure with Henry, Sarah, Melissa, like we're known in our areas. Like people know we're basically the freaking rock stars of our area. So, you know,
I
All
think it's
right.
easy too when your pipeline is full. I know Carol, hope not to take that with another question, but it's easier to walk away when you have that confidence and you're not, you know, so desperate for the business. You're hungry for it, but you're not desperate. And I've heard our RVP Alex say this, and I've said this to a few agents that I've mentored. They like, I lost that listing. Well, you didn't lose what you didn't lose or what you didn't have. So, you know, the thing about it is you chose to walk away from that. And Rory said it best with the word freedom. We are self-employed. And if, you know, you choose to not take that, then put that energy elsewhere, get the next listing, or, you know, follow up with a past client that, you know, is good at sending you leads, to kind of transfer that negative energy so you can get the next one at full percent and feel confident and not beat down about it.
I'll chime in here as well. The other thing too to think about is sometimes it's just as simple as asking questions. I had gone over with Carol. I was in competition. This family interviewed 3 agents total and called me up and just asked if I would be willing. Is my commission negotiable? I joked and I was like, oh, of course, if you want to pay me more, absolutely. They didn't think that was funny, but nonetheless, my point here is my next question to them was just out of curiosity, what did you do in order to get that agent to reduce their commission? And it kind of stunned them a little bit because I don't think that they were anticipating the question or the answer they were going to give, because they said, well, nothing. We just asked. And one agent said, yep. The other agent immediately came in and just said, I'll undercut everybody. And this is my, you know, this is what I'll charge you. And it was like, oh, well, that's interesting. Because if they're not going to even put up any type of, you know, defense for themselves, how are they going to negotiate your most, you know, valuable asset on your
Right.
behalf if simply by asking, hey, will you reduce? Yep. What do you want it down to? If a contract comes in, are they going to have that exact same type of skill set and negotiation power when they're negotiating you? And the real crux to that is you don't know what you don't know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because the bottom line, they could be leaving $10,000 on the table, which in most people's eyes is a lot of money, but they could be leaving 15, 20, 25,000, but you're never going to know that. And as a seasoned real estate agent who deals with this day in, day out, trust me, there are a lot of instances where I have absolutely gotten my buyer the best deal possible because they were willing to pay $25,000 and $30,000 more. It was actually on the table and the agent didn't know what to do with it. So they lost it. And that seller immediately, you know, they didn't immediately say you're hired, but they called me back the next day and said, we're going with you. And one agent was 2% lower than I was. And the other was 2.5% lower than what I was. So that's pretty significant because the price point of the house was $650,000. So we're not talking about just a couple of $1,000s. You know, so just sometimes just simplicity is a big deal. Asking that simple question, what did they do or what did you do in order to get them to reduce that commission?
Yeah, that's a great point. Sarah, you told me one other thing when we talked too, and you said that those that want their commission reduced and really drive hard end up being the hardest clients to deal with. Do you remember telling me that? And you said the first time, shame on you, and the second time, or first time, shame on them, second time, shame on you. So you learned that lesson. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, it was early in my career, but I had a seller that just, I really was desperate for it because I didn't have a lot of business. But when I got the listing, it was calls at 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night. And, you know, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you holding an open house every Sunday? Why aren't you, you know, mailing out more? Why aren't you everything under the sun? And it was like, oh my gosh, what did I do to myself? And just with the, you know, drama and the diva attitude, the red flag was they honed in and said, reduce your commission until I conceded. Then they knew they could walk all over me after that. So lesson learned, and never again.
Yeah, that was a great takeaway for me. So,
Yeah. Me too.
yeah, exactly. So, a couple of you mentioned Listing Concierge, and we talked about tools that you use and consistency and so forth. But what does Melissa? I'll start with you. You use Listing Concierge, and that's a big tool in your tool belt. And one of the things that I've heard in my position, and I know our branch managers have heard over and over again from agents, is, well, I don't need to spend the money on Listing Concierge because the house is going to sell anyway. So you continue to use it during this red hot market. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I have a operations manager. It's a little bit different than a transaction coordinator on my team. And she handles all the behind the scenes marketing with the listings as she inputs the listing and she processes that. And so for us to do the amount of volume that we do business wise, it's good to just have a system. Therefore, we kind of become a machine. And so there's no question asked on, do you want Listing Concierge? It's always the same. Again, it's a lot of, same thing over and over again to produce the same results. And we believe in it that much that we should have that. But also, just like Rory said, it's not also about marketing the listing, it's about marketing and branding yourself. So even if that house sells in 3 days or whatever, and I do believe that we're in a changing market, and in our area, just within the last week with interest rates and the media, we have seen stuff fall out and people change their mind, even in a multiple offer situation. Last week I had, oh, don't worry, you have 4 people that want your house. Number 1 changed their mind. Number 2 said no when I went back to them. Number 3 was like, oh, nope, changed my mind too. And then, finally went to number 4. So we're going to start seeing some of that as interest rates rise, and the media keeps talking about that, and people that are just so clued into the media. But if you keep that, you just do it on every one, and then you're also marketing yourself. So if somebody in the neighborhood is thinking about listing their home, then they will see, oh my gosh, 2 weeks later, guess what? She just got it just sold too. She sold that house quick. So if I'm in a hurry, then my house maybe will sell quickly. Or I've also had people hold on to those pieces for years. And I recently listed an estate, and the lady was hoarder. She was a hoarder, semi-hoarder in my mind. And I walked through the house with a niece, and everything that I'd ever sent her was scattered all over the house. So there's a generation of people that keep that stuff, and we want to be, I tell people, I want to be everywhere. I want to be with every generation. So like my parents watch religiously or DVR the Sunday morning TV show. I don't even have that channel in my household, but me and my kids are YouTubers. So I want to be where everybody is. If I'm marketing to an 80-year-old person, if I'm marketing to a 30-year-old person, if I'm marketing to a 50-year-old person. So with Listing Concierge, you can do that. And there's nobody else that can offer that. I mean, there's nobody in my marketplace that can even come close to marketing the way that we do with Listing Concierge. So to me, it's just a no-brainer.
Yeah. So one of the questions in the chat was, how often do you, and this is for everybody, how often do you have the same client? What is the max transactions you did with the same client? Like 6, 7, 10? And I think, and I'm just going to take this a step further and feel like probably the question is, do you still charge those people full fee? And so, so anybody want to take that one first?
Last year I did an estate, and we did over 6 transactions just with that one estate, Carol, and every one of them was a full fee, and every one of them was treated the exact same way. Every one of them got the exact same marketing, and there was consistency throughout. And I think that's what was impressive to the trustee, was how we were going to go about marketing all these properties specifically, and how we had a plan for each one and setting that expectation up front. And I think that's the number one thing that we can do as real estate agents is ask, well, two things: is set the expectation, and then two, ask a lot of questions to find out what they expect from this process. So when you work with those same clients and they expect the same exact service every single time, then they know what that experience is going to be like. I think by us explaining it to them up front, and then us being able to really give them good details, like we give every seller a calendar of what they're going to expect through our timeline, so that they have that expectation in writing ahead of time. And I bring that to the listing appointment as an example of, again, what they can expect throughout this process. So when we work with the same client over and over and over again, they're like telling me, oh, are we going to get to work with this person again? Do we get to see this person? So it's kind of fun to be able to have that experience and then get to know some of my vendors specifically even.
Yeah, and then commission's not even a question.
It's not a question. I don't think it comes up as much as, people think. It does come up, and I do fight it a lot, but I mean, it's not like once they see the value and the services that you provide, especially compared to everybody else. I even have a chart like what we do versus what others will do. And sometimes when I show that to them, it helps them check off a list of, if I'm competing, what am I going to provide to them versus what somebody else is going to provide to them.
Yeah, and you just have a system, like you said, start to finish. I love that you take them a gift on the listing appointment. I thought that was a really interesting twist, and it's always the same, right, Henry? Everything's always the same.
Everything's always the same. So they get 4 gifts throughout the process, and everybody gets those exact same gifts.
Do you want to explain how you do that?
So when I go out on a listing appointment, my team will drop off a pre-listing kit to the seller, and that will include a candle, all of our listing paperwork, testimonials, and that will give a little bio about me and my team. And then when we list their property, they're going to get like a moving kit. So that's tape, moving labels, Sharpie markers, a tape dispenser, and then some packing boxes. And then when we get under, escrow and we get through the inspection process, after every inspection, everybody gets a brownie sent to them with the congratulations and what's to expect next. And then at closing, they all get a photo book of their house with all the photos of their house.
Fantastic. I love that. All those touches along the way that are really, really special. That is great. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and then I'm just to say, so for everybody doing this, and then when they ask, when they compliment you on the gifts or when they say, great photos, that's a great opportunity then to ask for a current client referral and ask them, who else do you know that can benefit from this great service? And then when they're referring you, and again, you have that triangle of trust, then for sure, the commission isn't going to be as big of an objection because they know that's what their friends are paying and they know that's the type of level of service that they got.
Very good.
I've had a client that I've done hundreds of deals with over the years, like from my first year in real estate. And Carol, I think I told you this story too in our interview, but I went to list his business partner's house this year and we got done and commission was never a question. And at the end of it, he said, hey, does Brad pay a full commission? And I said, absolutely. He's never questioned, to do anything other than that. And I said, I've fully expected him to, but it has never been brought up. And I don't know if it's because he knows the answer is no, or if it's just that he sees the value and the insight that I provide. So it's not even worth asking. He's a contractor and he charges high. I always tell people he's not the cheapest, but he's the best. And so I hope that he sees the same thing with me. And really, somebody on one of these panels one time has, painted a silhouette of like, hey, I don't want to be Dollar General. That's not me. I have goals and dreams. And really, if you want to be the chinchy person who wants to pay the lower commission, you're probably not my target market anyways. Like, it's probably not somebody who I've set out to work with. If you're asking me to reduce my commission, because I don't go around asking people to reduce their services when I work with other affiliates. And
yeah, absolutely. And Melissa, you told me a couple of stories. One was that one, which I loved. And then, but you did walk away from a couple of listings in the last few weeks because of this very topic. Do you want to talk a little bit about either of those?
Well, one is actually one that I have in that's pending right now, and it's a past client. And she's got some dementia, Alzheimer's, so she's moving into assisted living. And looking back now, her sister lives out of the country. I don't know what her standards are, but I do know her sister, and this would be the third house that I've sold for the client. But her sister got involved, and she emailed me and said, would I reduce my commission because she was moving into assisted living and she needed every dollar she could get out of the house. And I just said no, for the same reasons that y'all said. I said, if I won't protect my own commission check, how can I protect the value of yours? And I said, in today's market, I think you'll find that I'm going to get you more than you've ever expected. And I can probably negotiate some of the buyers paying some of the closing costs that would even cover my commission. And so she just said, okay. There was no argument about it. When we went person to person to the listing appointment, I told them that their home was double what they paid for it. She bought the house for about 150,000. She's selling it for 325. And she was just blown away. She's 80 years old. She was just blown away that she would make that money, that type of money on real estate, and that it would, take her to the assisted living. But not only that, again, I provided value to them. Her sister's not from here. She had no clue. She lives in London. I provided her with movers. I provided her with a estate sale company. And I even provided her, because I knew, because my teammates' mom's going through the same thing, on which assisted living she should go to. In turn, they got a social worker there that gave them some advice that I wasn't aware of, because her deceased husband was a veteran. So it just snowballed. So there was never any other commission, because I provided my value. I got them multiple offers. I got them, more than what they expected. And I gave them advice along the way on what they could do with her situation, because I had the relationships that I had.
Very good. Rory, you talked about with me that you decide what you're worth, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so let's talk a little bit about that, because that's kind of your approach, that someone else isn't going to decide what you're worth. You decide.
Mhm.
yeah.
I like
I've-
that, Rory.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't know when it clicked, but just one day it did. But I'm the one that determines what I'm worth. Nobody else is going to come and tell me what I'm worth. And I've had not only other agents, but other brokers. And actually a managing broker called me on a Sunday of all days, like right before church, and just, I don't care what you charge, you're not worth it, blah, blah, blah. All right, man. Well, I'm not here to make enemies or anything, but I remember it was like 3 or 4 years ago. And it's when I started realizing that I only have so many hours in a day. And we now have a 3-year-old daughter. So, I had a daughter. I had just had some major surgery. I had Sheila, who I call her my wife, but it's her birthday today. So I think at the end of the call, I might get her on. Maybe we just have everybody tell her happy birthday. Just do it. But, he was upset because I had realized that I only had so many hours in a day, and I was getting call after call after call. So I realized that my time was worth more than what I was charging. So I needed to implement something that said, hey, here, if you want to spend time with me, here's what it's worth. And I think everybody realizes it, but nobody ever really talks about it. But when you get what you pay for, our grandparents always told us that, our parents, my grandfather always said, people don't care how you get things done, just get it done. It doesn't matter. So at the end of the day, if you want to get it done, and this is not, we're not talking about listing now, we're talking about being a buyer's agent. If you want me to go out with you and get it done, and I will get it done, there is a minimum fee that I charge.
Mhm.
So I have a 1.5% or 1,500, whichever is greater. There's an additional commission on top of that. I have never, maybe once, I don't believe I've ever had issues with that. So, and my team, I just started a team about a year ago. One of my team members actually does 2,500, and she closed 10 deals in 1 month. So it's an additional 25,000. But like, we realized that our time was valuable, and people will waste the crap out of your time. Like, especially if you're as good looking as I am, they just want to spend time with you. So I had to realize that, like, if you want to spend time with me, it's going to cost you. And that's kind of, 3 years ago, that's when I started implementing that. And that I learned from, we're a smaller town, about an hour south of Chicago, but I learned that from the West Coast guys when I was out in LA. And when I went to the city, that some of my friends out there were actually saying, we had to charge a buyer's fee because all these other listing agents were undercutting everybody. Like we don't here, we don't have to deal with companies like Redfin or anything, you know, where they're just these fucking billboards that just say 1%, you know, we'll list your house for one. Sorry, excuse my language, but you know, like we don't really have to deal with that, but you have to have a minimum. You have to know your worth. And my time is worth this much. And I will get it done. And that's what it's going to cost. And it's worked out really well for us. It's, I mean,
Yeah, so that,
we're only busier. We've only gotten more busy.
yeah, so certainly, even though it's not about listing, it is about getting what you're worth. So I just had to clarify with you when you and I were talking that you charge that's on your buyer agency in addition to what the co-op is paying out. So that's additional. So one other thing that you told me, Rory, is that you're a strong believer that if you put others first, everything else will be fine. And so really the way you treat people, the way you treat your clients consistently has really served you well.
Right. I always tell my clients when I meet them that, hey, I'm not looking for one-time deals. I'm looking for clients for life and friends for life. I've literally built my entire neighborhood is all my friends. And a couple of them I've actually gotten into real estate. I think that's one other thing that we don't focus on is you need to know your worth, but you need to see the value in other people too. And there's a lot of times we go out there and we meet these people that you're like, God, that person's amazing. Like they'd be really good at real estate. And honestly, I'd like to work with them more than the people I currently work with. So, you know, that's how I started reaching out. And I think at our office, we've almost doubled in size just by changing our mindset that they're not our competition. They're, you know, our support and our friends and our family. And like, we want everybody to be successful. And that was at one stage, that's kind of when I grew as a person, because, you know, at the beginning you would get on Facebook or something and somebody bought a home with somebody else and you'd be like, oh man, why didn't they use me? And instead I realized that I needed to be happy for other people and I needed to support and be success, you know, and wish success for others. And so every time somebody does that, congratulations, that's awesome. When somebody calls me and tells me they're working with one of my friends, that's amazing. They're the best realtor ever. Like I brought them here. You're in great hands. But like always being positive, always, you know, focusing on success and trying to find, you know, other value in other people too, and bring them to the company. There's a lot of people out there that would be amazing at this that none of us want to bring. And I remember when I started doing that, I actually had 2 agents come to me and say, what the hell are you doing? Why are you bringing people? Like, you're just bringing more competition. Like, well, one, I like them more than I like you, but two, like, I really think that we do need to, you know, whether, you know, and I want them to be successful, but it's only going to help our company grow and have a bigger footprint here. And like Coldwell Banker here where we live is just blown up, you know, and the whole mindset and the whole atmosphere in our office. And I see Lana's on here talking about it too, but like we've changed. We're just a big family now. And you know, we brought in our siblings and our best friends and our kids. Like we've just grown as a family here. So, and it's been amazing for us. And we've all been, you know, we share our listings with each other and we're getting deals done before they even go to market, which of course clients love, you know, so they don't have
Very good. Yeah. And one of the other things that you mentioned to me is 221 referral rewards and how amazing that is that you benefit from, but also others do. And I just want to go back 1 minute to your talk about bringing competition into the office. And then, you know, I think when we were having this discussion, we talked about how, well, they're competition if they're across the street too. So let's have them in our office and make our office stronger. So just a really, you know, really great perspective on you know, making the office strong makes everyone stronger and everyone succeeds. So, so that's great. Okay, hold on. I want to look through the chat here.
Hey, Carol, while you're looking through the
Oh,
chat.
I like this one.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Sarah. No,
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, I think Melissa was talking about listing concierge and the power of that. I used to actually do and take all those action steps prior to the company throwing out this amazing product. But I just want to reiterate what she was talking about with not just using it, quote, for the listing that you have, but leveraging the power of social media that comes along with it, the postcards that come along with it, the TV ad that comes along with it, if that's in your marketplace. All of the extras that come along with it that you could actually utilize to brand yourself and spread out your marketing vibes and make your dollar go farther. Because for the amount that you put out there, that includes photos plus all of those other things, the time that you save is priceless. Each listing, I would spend hours upon hours upon hours getting letters together and postcards together and just doing it all manually, individually, step by step. When you guys brought out listing concierge, I was like, somebody took my idea and finally made it user friendly. So the amount of hours that I have saved because of that is just astronomical. So there you go.
Fantastic.
That's another plug.
Thanks. Thank you. All right. So here's a question from the chat. And it is, what do you think is the one personal trait that you have that's helped your success in real estate?
That's
Melissa.
a good question.
It is a good girl. Henry, go ahead.
No, Melissa can go first, please.
So I think just communication and honesty is just what you will find about my personality, no matter what. I always tell people, like, I don't beat around the bush, and some people can't take that. But at the end of the day, the people that can will just be like, ask Melissa, or, call her, because she's going to tell you the truth. So sometimes my honesty is just to a fault. And and just like y'all said too, communication is such a key component in this industry, especially with things changing the way that they are. And during COVID too, just, there was times during COVID that I'm like, I don't know what to say to this person that just got furloughed, or I don't know what to say to this person that their, son's in the hospital with COVID or whatever. But just communicating, knowing that you're there. We're there for some big changes in people's lives, and just knowing that they can count on you to be honest and know that you have their best interest at heart. And just like Rory said, valuing people, liking people. We're in the people industry. So if you don't like people, you shouldn't be in this industry. And there's some people that we don't like and we don't ever have to work with again. And just like Rory said too, answering your phone. I mean, just treat people the way you want to be treated. So that's kind of what I feel. And just sticking to your word,
Fantastic. Henry, lots of head nodding there.
Well, no, Melissa is hitting a lot of great points. I think it's just honesty, integrity, being transparent. In Minnesota, they always say, I'm Minnesota nice. And I always tell my clients, I'm Minnesota mean. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And I think that communication, picking up the phone, Rory, I saw you put that in the chat. We always answer the phone. We always answer the phone. We're talking to people. We're answering them. Just be direct. There's nothing to lose. I think people are scared to tell the truth, and there's nothing to be scared of, because that's what's going to enhance your career and move you along and get you to the next level. Once you get the reputation like that, I always tell people when we sit down, I have one thing in this business, and that's my reputation. And so, this is what I go by. So I want you to have a great experience, but I also want you to refer a bunch of people to me. So I want you to commit to it. If you have a great experience, to at least sending me 2 people by the end of the year that want the same exact experience, because I'm always plugging to try to get their friends and family to keep that as the top of mind. But I think that's what's really helped me, is people know what they're going to expect, and they know they're going to get brutal honesty. And I tell them, I'm going to talk you out of buying a house before I talk you into buying a house, because we really want to find you that great house. I don't want you calling me every 2 minutes saying you bought it, Doug.
Yeah, I loved your comments. They're just all right on. So Rory, how about you?
What was the question?
The one thing about you that makes you so successful.
Oh yeah, I posted that in the chat. I remember when I was a rookie and they had me up on a panel and they asked what makes you so successful? The answer is still the same 7 years later. It's just, I answer my phone, and it's a lot. The phone gets hot, because I think, I was talking to Ryan Serhan, and he was saying that the one thing, and I remember he had said it to somebody else, the one thing about real estate that they never realize is how much you use your phone. you know, and I couldn't imagine what it would have been like for my parents or my grandparents when they had to go to the other agency and pick up the keys and plan their entire day. When I can do everything from here, like from write a contract to schedule a showing to, you know, just, well, I guess that's all I really do on it, you know. But I answer my phone nonstop, and you know, I'm very blessed to have an amazing support system, and you know, my life partner, you know, that she understands that when the phone goes off, that's what happens, you know, and she doesn't have to work. She gets to stay home, even though she runs her own company now. But like that's what takes care of our family. So it helps to have a really good support system too. My parents understand it. Her parents understand it. Like everybody knows. I don't, you know, do I want to be on that phone that much? No. But when somebody calls me, it's usually they want to talk about business, you know. And I remember I called an agent once, and I called her, she didn't answer. I called her again, and she said, "What?" And I said, "What? Like you answered the phone? What?" Like I was like, "What do you think I'm calling to hang out? Like I want to get a deal done. That's why I'm calling you. Like this is why I keep getting your listings. You know, how do you answer the phone? What? Like you should be excited to talk to me. Like trust me, if I'm calling you, we're getting shit done. Like that. You want Rory to call you. You know, so you know when people call me, you know they deserve the same amount of respect back that I should want to spend time with them and take time with them. And if time is short, I'll let them know, hey, you know, I'm here to talk. I've got about 5 minutes before I have to run in and do something. You know, what's up? You know, how can I, and I ask a lot. I always ask, how can I help? You know, that's usually the words that come out of my mouth the most is how can I help?
Nice. Sarah, how about you?
So I agree with everything everybody else already said, but if you're talking about an individualistic characteristic, I would definitely say my enthusiasm. I am super positive. The glass is always, you know, full. And just if it's overflowing, grab another glass and be excited. And this was a valuable thing for me that I use as a strong strength. When I was earlier on in the business, I went on a listing appointment. It was one of my first couple. I had no idea what I was talking about. I'm throwing out words that I had learned, and I'm like, and absorption rate and you know, net sheet, and I had no idea what I was even saying. And at the very end of all of that, the people on the other side of the table looked at me, and they just kind of looked at each other and laughed because they said, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you're so enthusiastic. Let's sign the paperwork. So when all else fails, I just do jazz hands and found that it all works out.
That's awesome. Well, I can vouch for your enthusiasm. That's for sure. You know, I want to comment on the answering the phone thing. All of you, you know, talked about that. And when I call people now in 2022 and they answer their phone, I compliment them on that because it is so rare. And the one thing worse than not answering, and everybody can't answer all the time, is the voicemail is full. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is somebody that's in the real estate business and they're not answering their phone and their voicemail is full. So you couldn't get to them if you had to. So, I mean, I just think that's a real thing. And answering a phone is a trait and a quality. And so I congratulate you all on that. So.
Hey, can I add one thing that
Yeah.
Anytime an agent calls me and I don't have them in my phone, I save them. And so I
Great
have
idea.
every agent saved. I have every client saved. So when they call me, it's like, hey, Henry, what's up? How are things going? You know, hi, Sarah, what's going on? Like people love that. I remember, so even here in my office, there's another top agent that I would call and it's always like, this is so-and-so. And it's like, fuck, you know, it's been 8 years. Like you can't answer me. But I remember when I saw another top agent at a completely different office that I would call and she'd be like, hey, Rory, like always excited to talk to me. And I'm like, I told her once, I said, you know what? From the beginning, like I absolutely love that when I call you, you address me by my first name and that you're excited to talk to me. You know, like when I call people in my own office and they don't even, you know, like they don't even acknowledge that it's me calling. It's just, they're the same blase fate, you know, like everybody is just a number to them and nobody's, you know, they don't know what's going on in somebody's life or who just had a kid or a wedding anniversary. It's just always like, it's huge to just answer the phone for that person, even if I've only talked to them once, but next time they call me a year later, it's like, hey, Peggy, what's going on? Like, how are you? Oh my God, Rory, you remember me. Like,
Yeah, it's almost like they're like shocked that
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
like, they're like, excuse me, when you say, you know, hey, Rory.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
they
that
love-
is such a simple thing too, just to add a name into your contacts, and then you've got it forever. That's fantastic. I saw one thing in the chat, and Melissa, you talk about during Girl Scout cookie season that you buy cookies and then brand them and hand them out. So you're really partnering with the Girl Scouts when you do that. So talk a little bit about that, because I love that.
Yeah, and at one point, Caldwell Banker had Chris Leader come, and he gave us that idea, and that was our gift. So like Henry, I do gifts as well. I'm probably, you know, better at it during the slower season, because we've also learned with the Girl Scout cookies that we froze them. But then one day we got hungry at the office and we opened some, and they're kind of like, ugh, at a certain point, they have a shelf life to like September, but they're really not that good. So, but it's you know, it sounds like everybody else is really in tune to making relationships. And so we buy, we do about between 100 and 110 deals a year. And so we buy about 200 boxes of Girl Scout cookies, because we do some farming too in different neighborhoods. So we do it on our own. And then the last couple of years, we started partnering with the insurance company. And so we split the cost and we were able to buy more. But that, when Chris Leader gave us that idea, I think Girl Scouts cookies were like $2 a box, you know? So it's a very small, small investment. Now therefore, some of them, you know, can be more, but you know, the Girl Scout got to go to camp because we bought so many on top of what she sold.
That's
And
awesome.
then as she kind of aged out, she, you know, referred us to somebody else. And then as she aged out, we found out, hey, that one of our clients was a Girl Scout member. And so we reached out to them, and it's just, you know, full circle. And like, who's not happy to get Girl Scout cookies? And oh, by the way, because we buy so many, we have them before they start selling them.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
But I'd love to hear other ideas. I mean, during COVID, we did hand sanitizer and mask. And so during the holidays, you can go buy in bulk sparklers. So Memorial Day, we actually had a client that she had her grandkids, and she's like, hey, do you know of anywhere that we can get sparklers? And my husband answered on social media and was like, we have a ton, take them to them. But that's a small investment too, that you can buy in bulk as well and put your branding stuff on it. And it's, you know, relatively cheap per unit.
Melissa, one thing that we've done with Girl Scout cookies is if I go on the listing agreement, you know, I mean, a listing appointment and they haven't signed the listing agreement, I'll have my team drop off a box of cookies and say, Scouts honor, we're going to take the best care of you. And we use that
Cute.
line because it's been really helpful, and that usually gets the deal done right there.
That's awesome. Ours say, are you scouting for a good real estate agent?
Oh, I love
Ah,
that.
cute.
I love that.
Very good. I like it. I'm going to do a really quick plug on Chris Leader, since Melissa, you mentioned him a couple of times. So all of you out there in St. Louis, we have Chris Leader coming for a Wealthy Lister event on July 12th, and you do not want to miss it. So
I love
they
Chris
don't want to
Leader.
miss. They don't want to miss it, right, Melissa?
They don't. I love his personality. I love his accent. He's so cute with his glasses and all that. I'm a big Chris Leader fan. He's just very, of course, I'm from the South, and most people on here probably are, but even though he's from Canada, he has just a really great disposition. Like Henry and Rory say, he's very positive. He came to us during the recession, and so he was just a positive light in my life during those years. So
Nice. Very good. All right. I'm going to say we have like 1 minute. Anybody have a final thought for the last minute?
Thanks for having us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I want to thank each of you. You were great. You kept it energetic and fun. I really, really appreciate it, and taking time out of your busy day. And I love it when you said to each other, "Ooh, that's a great idea." So hopefully you all got a takeaway or two as well. I know our audience did. So thank you very much. I want to thank everyone in CB Central who tuned in. And I want to make sure that you put on your calendar our next month, which is on July the, oh, shoot, I had all my papers lined up here. July the 19th at 9:15. And this is going to be a panel that focuses on luxury, and it's going to be led by Terry Macaluso, a fantastic branch manager from our Dallas Fort Worth market. So again, thank you all very much for taking the time. You were terrific. I really appreciate it. Had a great time working with you and getting to know you. And have a great first day of summer, everybody out there.